Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Committee on Higher Education, Subcommittee on Higher Education to order. Please call the roll.
Senator Peterson, Senator Cosgrove, here. Senator Hashmi, here. Senator Pillion, Senator Locke.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We'd like to go ahead and get started on our bills with Senator Chase. You're here, so if you could come on and get started. And I'd like to note, I hope you got the message on your particular piece of legislation. We will give each side 10 minutes of debate on this legislation, and it will be a hard stop at 10 minutes.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. I'll be presenting Senate Bill 458, which is a bill that prohibits any locality, institution of higher education, employer, school board, division superintendent, school principal, or private school from adopting, implementing, or enforcing any policy, rule, or order related to COVID-19 that requires individuals to wear a mask. Madam Chairman, I would like to read to you all an excerpt from Marjorie Smelkinson. She's an infectious disease scientist whose research has focused on influenza and SARS COVID-19, and the question was posed to them: do the harmful effects of masking children outweigh the benefits of wearing a mask? And in the first point, it says imposing on millions of children an intervention that provides little discernible benefit on the grounds that we do not have yet gathered solid evidence of its negative effects, violating the most basic tenets of medicine, which is first to do no harm. Continued mandatory masking of children in schools, especially now that most school-age children are eligible for vaccination, fails this test. Madam Chairman, the second point that was made, that was many countries like UK, Sweden, Norway, and others follow the World Health Organization guidelines, which recommend against masking children ages 5 and younger because A, this group is at low risk of illness, B, masking is not in the overall interest of the child, and C, many children are unable to wear masks properly, even for children aged 6 to 11. The WHO does not routinely recommend masks because of the potential impact of wearing a mask on learning and social development. The WHO also explicitly counsels against masking children during physical activities, including running and jumping at the playground, so as not to compromise breathing. I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple of studies that I would like to bring to your attention. One of those is a Brown University study where they were analyzing 2020-2021 data from schools in New York, Massachusetts, and Florida, and they found no correlation between student cases and mask mandates. In Tennessee, there were 2 neighboring counties with similar vaccination rates. It was Davidson and Williamson, and they have virtually overlapping case rate trends at their counties in their school-age populations, despite one having a mask mandate and another one having a mask opt-out rate of about 23%. Now, one would expect a quarter of the students opting out of masking to affect the transmission rates if masks played a significant role in controlling COVID-19 spread, but actually that was not the case. In another recent analysis of data from Cass County, North Dakota, comparing school districts with and without mask mandates, concluded that mask-optional districts had lower prevalence of COVID-19 cases among students this fall. And then again, in Alachua County, Florida, they suggest no differences in mask required versus mask optional schools. And then similarly, in the UK, recently reported finding no statistically significant differences in absences traced to COVID-19 between secondary schools and mask mandates and those without mandates. Her third point, Madam Chairman, is the concern for the mental and socio-emotional outcomes are hard to observe and measure and can take years to manifest. There were a couple studies found in Greece and Italy. They found evidence that masking is a barrier to speech recognition, hearing, and communication, and that masks impede children's ability to decode facial expressions, dampening children's perceived trustworthiness of faces. Research has also suggested that hearing-impaired children have difficulty discerning individual sounds. Opaque masks, of course, prevent lip reading. And, it's interesting. As I was heading over to the Capitol today, I even spoke with one mom who said that they've noticed an increased risk with their child's dental cavities as a result of wearing the mask. Madam Chairman, I've done a lot of research in looking at the Department of Health's website numbers, and as of March 15th, 2020 to January 22nd, 22, there have been a total of 207,559 cases. And these are all children 17 and under. That's a lot of cases. Of those cases, 1,176 kids were hospitalized. That's 0.56% of the diagnosis, and then 13 deaths, which if you round that to a percentage, that means 0% associated with children under the age of 17. And yet, the children under the age of 17 are being forced to wear a cloth or disposable surgical mask, which even the manufacturer says right on the box of disposable masks that these masks do not prevent the spread of viruses like COVID. I remember back whenever in the fall when kids were heading back to school, I picked up a box of masks and I couldn't believe it. That's exactly what it said on the box. So why are we forcing kids to wear a mask when the risk is so low that they will be hospitalized or even die from COVID? These paper and cloth masks don't work, and they are actually making individuals, including children, sick by forcing them to breathe in their own carbon dioxide, decreasing oxygen levels, and creating a warm, moist environment on their face, which is actually leading to even dermatology-type rashes. It's conducive to breeding fungi, bacteria, virus, and disease. This practice is actually suppressing our kids' immune system and making them sick. Not only is this making our kids physically sick, but it is creating a mental health crisis among our youth, which is leading to feelings of isolation, depression, and even suicide as kids feel hopeless and afraid. It is unethical and unconstitutional to force healthy citizens to abide by measures that can result in physical and emotional harm and that infringe on the ability to move freely throughout society without discrimination. And yet public schools across Virginia, like Fairfax and Loudoun County public schools, are depriving children of an education and even threatening suspension from school if they do not wear a mask. Madam Chairman, our parents need relief. Our kids need relief. Our kids belong to us and not the school systems. Parents are being charged criminally for truancy if their children do not show up to school with a mask on, reinforcing the message that they believe our kids belong to the government and the government knows best, despite Governor Youngkin's most recent Executive Order 2 that went into effect on Monday, January the 24th, giving parents the ability to opt their student out of wearing masks. For those with deeply held religious beliefs, mask mandates violate their ability to abide by natural law and follow their convictions to walk in faith and not fear. As such, the decision to wear a mask is a highly personal one and should not be universally mandated. Measures that are meant to protect the community as a whole are ineffective if they hurt individuals in that community. Wearing masks for long periods of time can adversely affect your health. Wearing a mask for long periods can cause pulmonary fibrosis, as loose fibers are seen on all types of masks and may be inhaled, causing serious lung damage. There is a risk that viruses and bacteria may actually accumulate in the fabric of a mask, thereby increasing the amount of virus being inhaled. The masks are actually making people sick. Masks collect fungi, bacteria, viruses, and because of the moist air exhaled, masks are an excellent breeding ground. People who wear masks are breathing in their own carbon dioxide. With every breath you are breathing out or exhaling carbon dioxide and breathing right back in that carbon dioxide that is trapped behind the mask. A mask can reduce blood oxygenation by up to 20%, leading to a possible loss of consciousness. At least one road crash has been blamed on a driver wearing a mask. Police reported that the driver of a single-car crash in New Jersey is believed to have passed out behind the wheel after wearing a mask for too long. On the same day the CDC's natural immunity report was released, the UK dropped a report of its own. New UK reports back up CDC findings on natural immunity, delivering major blows to school masks, saying that school-age children who never wear a mask had a lower chance of testing positive for COVID than those who always wear them. One study of health workers wearing masks showed that a third developed headaches requiring painkillers. Another study showed that 81% developed headaches and their work was affected. A second study of 53 surgeons showed that there was statistically significant falls in blood oxygen levels after a mask had been worn for a few hours. Research published in June 2020 suggests that the reduction in blood oxygen and the increase in carbon dioxide resulting from mask wearing causes a strain on the heart and the kidneys, and that mask wearers are more likely to develop infection than non-mask wearers. This may be due to the fact that masks reduce blood oxygen levels and adversely affect natural immunity. It is likely that anyone who wears a face mask for long periods of time will have a damaged immune system and be more susceptible to infection. Studies have shown that hypoxia can inhibit immune cells used to fight viral infections. Wearing a mask may make the wearer more likely to develop an infection, and if an infection develops, it is likely to be worse. Masks can also cause hypercapnia or increased carbon dioxide. Symptoms of hypercapnia include drowsiness, dizziness, and fatigue. In conclusion, Madam Chairman, parents should not have to choose between forcing their child to wear a mask in order to get an education and endangering their child's physical and mental health and well-being. It's not even like the masks are working. In fact, they're not. Hardworking Virginians shouldn't be forced to wear a mask all day either or lose their job and means to provide for their family. Once again, it's not even like the masks are working. In fact, they're not. Businesses should not be forced by the government to mandate and enforce a mask policy or deny entry or goods and services to an individual who cannot or chooses not to wear a mask and shouldn't be required to give a reason for not doing so. Universal masking is not preventing the spread of COVID. It is actually causing unintended negative health consequences. I'm 3 more points and I'm done. 3, and I'm done. We're losing more children to suicide, mental health issues, suppressed immune systems, hypercapnia, hypoxia, and pulmonary fibrosis than we are to COVID itself. The numbers, the science says it all. Please stop the mandates. The science doesn't support it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Chase. Are there questions to Senator Chase?
I have one, Madam Chair.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Senator Chase, you said you don't think businesses should be mandated to forced to have their employees wearing masks, but is it really the state's business to interfere in private business matters?
I believe just as we should not be discriminating against people based on the color of skin or religion or any of those things, that we should not be discriminating against people who cannot or choose not to wear a mask. I think it's an individual and a personal choice, and we should leave that up to the individual.
Thank you.
Any question? I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Much of your discussion had to do with children.
Yes.
And the impact that mask wearing had on children. Yet your bill addresses, you didn't talk about businesses until the end.
Yes.
But your bill addresses institutions of higher education, it addresses employers, it addresses school boards, it addresses private schools, school principals, superintendents, and pretty much everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
So it will impose this prohibition on all of these entities.
Madam Chairman, it's my desire that we not discriminate against anybody who chooses not to wear a mask. We should respect everybody's decision. If you wear a mask, I respect that. If I don't wear a mask, it's just a mutual respect that we each do our homework, we educate ourselves, we know our family, we know our situation, we know our children, whether we're at work, whether we're at home, at school. We need to respect each person and their decision to wear a mask or not. That's really the gist of the bill.
So is that what this bill does?
The bill is not supposed to discriminate against anyone who chooses
Doesn't
not
say
to wear a
anything in
mask.
there about not discriminating.
The intention of the bill says that let's see, right up here in 15.2-2, it just talks about notwithstanding any contrary provision of law, general or special, no locality shall adopt, implement, or enforce any policy, rule, or order related to COVID-19. We're just trying to cover all of our bases. And so that's why I specifically asked them to have a specific rule in the actual language of the bill itself. In Section 15, we say no locality, talking about when we're in public places. Starting in Section 19, we're talking about private and public schools, so not just the public schools, but the private schools. In law number 24, we're talking about our public and private colleges and universities. And then in line 29, we're talking about employers. So it's trying to be comprehensive and specific that basically we're not going to discriminate against anybody who chooses not to wear a mask. And Madam Chairman, if I could briefly just share a personal account. I have
Let me get into public testimony first.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely. I respect that.
Are there those who are here to speak in support of Senate Bill 458? Okay, come forward. You got 10 minutes on this side for those who are in support.
I wasn't even planning on speaking, but now I just feel like I need to. So,
It's on.
okay, just in support of the bill, I wanted to say a few
Please state your
things.
name,
My
please.
name is Emily Klein. One of the things that I keep coming back to, and kind of with what y'all just were talking about, whether or not it was discrimination and whether or not you should be able to do this in a business. Should we be able to say that? Well, so when we go to something that has no factual backup, there's no data. The CDC has provided me none. The VDH has provided me none. There is no conclusive data that masking universally prevents the spread of a virus. And those that believe otherwise have mitigation strategies they can put in place for themselves. But when I talk about why we're doing this in school buildings, because I do have school-age kids, we look at nobody that is implementing this can provide us with any proof or any data. And so if my boss told me to go steal a car, am I still liable, or do I just put that up on my boss? So just because the CDC or the VDH tries to tell us to do something, people need to use their brains, right? And what is right and what is wrong. And at some point, we have to stand up. So that's how I feel about schools, right? And so one of the things, too, and I've done a lot of research on this, mental health. I'm an advocate for mental health. I lost my brother to suicide. It's something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. So to watch these children, and especially these younger children wearing masks, facial recognition studies have been done the 80s, the 90s. This isn't something new. It helps children build empathy, which means they learn how to deal with emotions, right, and how to understand other people. In other countries, when they train children to be a suicide bomber, do you know what they do? They mask. They don't want children to learn to care about other people. And we are depriving our children of this on top of the educational impact, not being able to read and write because you're missing that connection with a teacher. How do you go in with a teacher and feel supported? You can't see them smile. You can't get that reassurance. There's other things. I mean, I've got friends that children have nosebleeds. They have strep throat constantly, the bacteria. But here's the reality of what happens in the school, okay? I walk in the school. Masks are mandated. Front office isn't wearing them. Here's the reality what happens in a school. Children aren't wearing them properly. Here's the reality of what happens in school. You will never be able to force children to wear a mask properly. You ask the kids and their families are very pro-mask, they wear the same mask for 5 days in a row. So I don't know how that mask that they wore for 5 days in a row has anything other than bacteria in it. So I think it is a personal responsibility to do what is right. I do not want my kids to wear a mask in school. I make sure my kids have 3 masks a day and they are changing it constantly. I know the harms. There are studies out there about the bacteria. There are numerous studies that wearing a mask for that extended period of time is detrimental mentally and physically. So we can't control what other people do, right? We all can take the data and make our own decisions, and I think that it is everybody's right to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in support? Those in opposition?
Madam Chair, Committee, Vicki Kitts with the Virginia Education Association. We oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we have Senate Bill 458.
Madam Chairman, I'd propose an amendment, and without this amendment, I can't support this bill. And that would be strike all of lines 28, 29, 30, and 31.
To strike 28 through 31.
Which is the part dealing with forcing employers to not be able to run their own business the way they want. I haven't seconded yet.
Substitute motion, Madam Chair.
I mean, his is an amendment.
Well, it dies for lack of a second.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, Senator Chase, but as somebody with a immune compromised system, you know, I have the same rights and freedoms as everybody else who, if you don't want to wear a mask, you know, fine. But I don't want people in my presence, you know, who feel as though your freedoms are more than mine, you know, or your rights and your liberties are more than mine, you know. And that's the sense that I get from individuals who feel as though somehow I don't want to wear a mask and I don't want to be, you know, I have that right more than somebody who wants to wear a mask.
Madam Chairman, I completely agree with you, and I would tell you that I have a note from a neurologist saying that I cannot wear a mask, even if I wanted to. And so I think we, as people who both share situations, that we just have to show love and respect toward each other and understand that by my not wearing a mask, it's not to disrespect you, and vice versa. And just that mutual respect and agreement that we respect each other's decision. And I know when I walk on an elevator, if I see people in there with masks, I'm like, are you okay with me getting on the mask out of respect for other people, for you and others? So it's not a sign of disrespect. It's not a sign of disregarding other people's concern. I mean, everybody has their right and their choice. And I think it's just a matter of how do we as a society come together and out of love and respect toward each other and live and work and go to school together and play together and respect these differences, because we all have very strong feelings medically and otherwise. For me medically, and I know some of the other people. If you remember the executive order originally, there was an exemption for people who had disabilities. I deal a lot with domestic violence victims who have been strangled. And I've had two of them to tell me that they were denied goods and services because they could not put on a mask and walk into a store. It just brought too many terrible memories because of the strangulation. So I'm just very sensitive to different groups of people that I've been in contact with, that for them it creates PTSD just to wear a mask or put anything on their face at all. I'm just sympathetic to those folks as well.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to pass by indefinitely.
And I'll second that motion. Okay, the motion is to pass by indefinitely Senate Bill 458. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Or to recommend to the full committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No. Okay.
Right,
Thank you,
thank
Senator
you.
Chase.
Thanks for listening.
Senator Reeves.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I have two bills, I think, whichever one you want to take up first.
Go for it.
Madam Chair, I think somebody's coming over from Veterans Services. That's 768, so I'll take up 717 if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
Madam Chairman, members of the subcommittee, this is a simple bill. It's just not a lot of language into it, but when I talk about comprehensively how we got here, you'll understand why I put the bill forward. But it basically prohibits employees at public institutions of higher education in the Commonwealth from participating in Chinese-sponsored what's called talent recruitment programs or receiving Chinese-funded grants. It also requires each employee at such institutions to disclose to the council all financial payments received from foreign governments. It's really a simple bill to protect our national security and intellectual property and promote transparencies. Recently, there have been several examples of Chinese government influence American research through a program they call the University Talent Programs and stealing proprietary intellectual property. A couple different cases, not necessarily just in Virginia, but around the country. On 21 December this year, a Harvard professor was convicted of making false statements to the FBI to participation in the People's Republic of China Thousands Talent Program in connection with Wuhan University of Technology. China's talent plan is one of the most prominent Chinese talent recruitment plans designed to attract, recruit, cultivate high-level scientific talent in furtherance of China's scientific development, economic prosperity, and national security. The Chinese government often uses these programs to steal intellectual property and important to our national security. The FBI cites, quote, foreign government-sponsored talent recruiting programs often seek to import or otherwise acquire proprietary technology or software, unpublished data methods, and intellectual property from abroad, sometimes obtaining these through illicit means to modernize the foreign nation's military and grow its economy. The Department of Energy issued Order 486.1 on June 7, 2019, that describes talent programs as follows. In general, such programs include any foreign state-sponsored attempt to acquire U.S. scientific-funded research or technology through foreign government-run or funded recruitment programs that target scientists, engineers, academics, researchers, entrepreneurs, and all nationalities working on educated in the United States. These recruitment programs are often part of a broader whole government strategy to reduce costs associated with basic research while focusing investment on military development or dominance in emerging technology sectors. Madam Chair, I will forego the rest of this whole report from them and just kind of summarize with this. Under Section 117 of Higher Education Act, U.S. institutions of higher education are not barred from accepting money from or entering into contracts with foreign governments, companies, or personnel or agents, but with limited exceptions. They are required to disclose transparency of their foreign money and contracts to the Federal Department of Education. In 2019, universities failed to report $1.3 billion in foreign funding, and that we must address this issue. Madam Chairman, I figured it'd probably come up in a question. Have we ever had something like that happen here? And we have. Just recently, at the University of Virginia, we had something where we had an assistant professor working for a professor who had been charged with stealing proprietary software codes under development for 2 decades by his University of Virginia advisor, who runs collaborative programs with other schools funded by the Office of Naval Research. And so they go into it. It's a very long case of what happened. Mr. Hu's advisor at UVA, Haibo Dong, and I don't mean to not say it correctly, reiterated what he had told the FBI, that he believed Mr. Hu had improperly taken his code. It's not ethical, not appropriate, but whether it reaches criminal level, I'm not sure, he said, referring to questions about the case. The case was ultimately dropped with some good lawyering going on and some other things, but it's just another probe from the Chinese government into trying to get information and technology out of our finest institutions. So the bill, again, Madam Chair, is pretty simple. It just makes sure that these folks have to, if they're going to report on these things, have to disclose all of that. It says to the council, and that council is the State Council of Higher Education in the Commonwealth, all financial payments received from foreign governments. And that's the bill.
Okay, thank you, Senator Reeves. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Senator Hashmi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Reeves, am I reading this correctly, that no institution will participate in Chinese-sponsored talent recruitment programs? Does that mean that the flow of talented individuals, researchers, scientists, other talented individuals of Chinese origin would not be able to come to our institutions of higher education? Is that correct?
Madam Chair, I would define the talent recruitment program, Chinese-sponsored, their program that the FBI list, that specific program that they have. And I don't know if council maybe we can define that per that code, federal code.
I think if it's in the federal code, we could specifically define it. I'm not sure which section that is.
That was one of the challenges. That's why we were very specific, Chinese-sponsored talent recruitment, because that's a specific program that the Chinese have that they come and do that with.
Okay. No questions right now, Madam Chair.
And this is limited to China, no other country?
Correct. Madam Chair, they're the biggest violators of it, everything that we have thus far. I'm sure there are other countries that have somewhat similar programs, but this is one of the most prominent and prolific folks that are stealing our institutional knowledge and intellectual property.
Madam Chair, just a follow-up.
Senator Hashmi?
So we've had one incident here in the Commonwealth at University of Virginia, but no other that you know of. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Senator Hashmi, I haven't requested FOIAs from all the universities here to find out if they fall into that $1.3 billion in foreign funding that hasn't been reported, or asked for those FOIA requests of the Council of Higher Education, the specific State Council of Higher Education, but we were in the process of doing that when we were getting ready to drop all these bills to find out what has and hasn't happened.
Madam Chair,
Senator Hashmi?
but regardless of the FOIA request, I think my question is, we know of one incident in the Commonwealth where there has been a case of espionage or taking of research.
Madam
Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Senator Hashmi, we have had that happen before, but I just wanted to present one of the most recent. So we've had other cases.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there those here in support of Senate Bill 717?
Madam Chair, I know Senator Hashmi works in higher education. My goal is not to stifle research or get the best and brightest here. It's trying to control our advantages that we have in our intellectual property and what we do in our higher education to make sure that we have some safeguards in place. And really part of that reporting process and that transparency is really important. When you think about $1.3 billion, that's a lot of money that we didn't know was pouring in, and we don't know what's really pouring out.
Anyone here in opposition to 717? Okay. The only thing that makes me nervous about this is that it's one country. I mean, when we don't know the extent of the problem at other institutions or the extent of the problem with other entities.
Right.
That's my only concern.
No, Madam Chair, I absolutely agree with you. And I think this is one of those, is if we found out that the Iranians or the Russians or someone else was doing it too, I think we would be able to expand that bill here. But this is probably as I said, one of the biggest violators that we have, stealing our intellectual property. And so I've tried to narrowly define it down to that.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Having worked in the engineering industry, especially with fighter aircraft, I know a lot of the technology that is developed that is ultimately used by our government and DARPA and the rest is developed at our institutions of higher learning. And it's been well documented that this one government has worked very, very hard to get that technology for its own usage. I think this is narrowly crafted, and I think it's everyone is aware of the situation. And I imagine there are other governments that are doing the same type of talent search or recruitment. But I think this is a bill whose time has come, and so I hope that we'll support the bill.
Madam Chair, if I could speak to the bill.
Yes.
Senator Reeves, I understand the intent behind the bill, but as it reads to me, it seems to really demonize one particular population. And I've spoken with many individuals who are of Chinese origin, and they are researchers and fine academicians in our institutions of higher education. And they have felt over the past couple of decades that there's been a rather intense and biased scrutiny on them and on the efforts that they are making because of some well-popularized incidents. And I'm not denying that we have certainly seen some incidences in institutions across the country, but we have a very, very broad pool of talent and very dedicated individuals who are of Chinese origin, but who have lived here and are working in our institutions, teaching our students, and who are absolutely dedicated to the work of the fields, the disciplines in which they are a part. I think this particular legislation would have a very chilling effect on our ability to recruit talent and to benefit from the kind of insights and research that folks bring to us from other countries, and I will be therefore voting against this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hashmi.
Madam Chair, if I can, this really deals with the grants, not necessarily the people themselves, but the money. So I understand where Senator Hashmi is, but this really deals all about Chinese-funded grants. And the disclosure of those grants is what's critical. So it's if they were from Russia and Russia was giving grants to higher education institutions, and we would like to know where those are, and so we can monitor that. Doesn't mean we're being prejudicial to anybody, but the monies are going somewhere to study something. And, these innovation labs of technology that are going, everything as Senator Cosgrove talked about, especially in the military sense, from where we are today to laser weapons to all these other things, it's miraculous how these things show up in China very, very quickly, or in Russia, or in some of these other areas. So this is more of a money tracking to be able to follow those things and make sure they're transparent when they have them.
Madam Chairman,
Senator Cosgrove.
I think in order to maybe ease some of the distress, since this is basically Chinese-centered, instead of Chinese-sponsored talent recruitment or Chinese-funded grants, we should probably change that to foreign government-sponsored talent recruitment or foreign government-funded grants. And that way, we're not just picking on one particular group of people, but still trying to protect the assets, the IP that comes out of our universities. research universities. So I
Madam
would
Chair,
make amendment.
that would cast a wide net. Madam Chair, if I can, are you saying Senator Cosgrove take out Chinese-sponsored talent recruitment programs and put foreign government talent recruitment programs or receive foreign government grants?
No, I'm just saying, Madam Chairman,
Go ahead.
what I'm saying is where it says Chinese in your bill, to replace the two places where it says Chinese and put in foreign government.
Madam Chair,
I think that. Oh, go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry.
Amendment, I want to do it.
It just was narrowly. I was trying to keep it narrowly
I know you are.
defined.
Madam Chair, I feel uncomfortable moving into this territory just because so much of the kind of work is done at the federal level in terms of creating the policies and structures by which we engage with other nationalities and their citizens who are coming to participate in our, whether as students or as researchers or faculty members. I would prefer that we continue to defer to federal guidelines rather than trying to articulate Virginia-specific guidelines, and especially Virginia-specific guidelines that are targeting Chinese or Chinese-sponsored talent recruitment programs.
Senator
Madam
Reeves.
Chair, if question for Senator Hashmi, if we remove the mandated part, the prohibition part, but still kept the disclosure part, which allows our government entities that monitor these things from foreign governments, would you be more comfortable with it?
Senator Reeves, I feel very uncomfortable just with the language that's focusing and targeting one specific nationality, regardless of all the other countries that participate in similar programs in the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Senate Bill 717.
Well, Madam Chairman, if nobody's going to say anything, I'll move to report, or recommend reporting.
There's a motion to recommend reporting Senate Bill 717.
Madam Chair, substitute motion.
Senator Hashmi.
I move that we pass by indefinitely.
I will second that. So the motion is to recommend to full committee to pass by indefinitely Senate Bill 717.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
Senator
apologize, I
Peterson.
literally just walked in. I'm just reading the summary. It prohibits, and I don't have the text in front. Do you have the text? Oh, well, that took me 1 second. Okay. Thanks, Bryce. Okay. All right, okay, I've seen it. Thanks.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Bryce. Is your other person here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think I have. Thanks, Jeff. I think I have Senate Bill 768, and this came at the request of the Department of Veteran Services. Commissioner Gade brought it to my attention, and I think Claudia's here. Where's Claudia? Did she make it? Marcus here? She didn't make it. That's okay. It's. I think there's an amendment in the nature of a substitute. Thank you, John.
Move to substitute, Madam Chairman.
Seconds. Moved and seconded that the substitute be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, what this bill does, quick summary, is a qualifying veteran step-parent must have claimed the child on his tax return for 3 years or claim the child on his defense enrollment eligibility reporting system for 3 years to qualify for the VMSDEP, which is the Virginia Military Survivors Dependent Education Program benefits. What this does will allow the Commissioner of the Department of Veteran Services the authority to waive a resident requirement if they're not met due to the death of the veteran or surviving spouse. So this kind of came about as several specific cases, but one of the things is the Virginia Military Survivors Dependent Education Program is a recruiting tool to entice veterans to remain in Virginia. It provides tuition and fee waivers for veterans with severe disabilities and for families of military members who died on active duty. Since its expansion in 2019, we've had several thousands of these veterans. However, there are two issues of concern, and those two issues are the qualifying veteran, if not the biological father or mother of the child, who's the applicant, must have legally adopted the child in order for the VMS DEP to serve the child. Unfortunately, the reality of a modern blended family is such that some veterans may have been the step-parent of a child since birth, but never legally adopted a child, either out of oversight because the birth parent retains some parental right authority and adoption is not possible. If the qualifying veteran dies while in Virginia, but before being physically present in Virginia for 5 years, then the child doesn't qualify. And this is the example. If I moved to Virginia permanently in December of 2017, under the code, if I died before December of 2022, my children would not be eligible for VMSDEP. And so it's narrowly defined in here, but it would at least give the commissioner the opportunity to waive that in those certain cases.
Any questions to Senator Reeves?
Just a comment,
Senator
Madam Chairman.
Cosgrove.
Thank you. Bryce, I really like the bill. I'm really having some heartburn with the whole 3-year
Right.
tax thing. We all know people who, there is no such thing as a stepchild. It's their child. Okay, I mean, basically, in legal terms, it's a stepchild, but basically they are thought of as their own flesh and blood. My concern with the 3-year provision is that if there's a couple and the stepchild, is there domiciled with the member, that member is deployed and through a terrible set of circumstances does not come back.
Right.
Is there any way to put something like a line of duty?
That's-
killed in action? Or?
That's already existing code. The 3 years is already existing code.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know, based on the government program, if we can change that. I think that's a federal
All right.
code in accordance with the grants that they have. So we're not changing. I agree with you 100%, but if I could change it now, it's already existing code. So we'd have to check.
Any other questions?
Senator Reeves,
Peterson?
right now, how do they determine whether a stepchild is eligible or not eligible? What's the criteria?
Madam Chairman, Senator Peterson, I think if it's the actual father or legal parent, that's how they do it. So, as a veteran, if let's say, this is a better way of saying it. If I was a veteran and I had a stepchild, exactly like what I said, I had a stepchild that really I took care of my whole life, and you were the parent of the child, but you weren't a veteran. This allows me the opportunity, even though you're the natural father, I'm the real father, the opportunity to have that child get the benefits that I earned as a veteran.
Okay, so let me put this sort of in my own, let's say my wife remarries and marries a veteran, and so I'm still the natural father of my youngest child, who's still young, but that new stepfather would then have to assert some type of economic role over her.
Correct.
All right.
And so and
that's
yet
what we're
you want
getting
to
at.
keep parental control, right, as still part of that. So this is an opportunity to allow the Commissioner of Veteran Services to provide a waiver for that to make your child eligible under the stepfather
Okay.
for her benefits.
Anyone here in support of Senate Bill 768? Anyone here in opposition?
Madam Chairman,
Okay.
I have a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I would move to recommend reporting the substitute.
You awake over there, Chet?
Yes, sir. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill
this-
768 be recommended for reporting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Senator Hashmi said aye. Okay. Those opposed? Okay. Thank you, Bryce. Okay, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have before you and the committee Senate Bill 751, and there is a substitute.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 751 be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, we have the substitute.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Senate Bill 751 is an attempt to address some of the healthcare workforce issues that we're having this year by leveraging programs that already exist in Virginia in our community college system. Specifically, that would be G3, and it would also be Workforce Credentials Grant Program. At this time, high school students, even though they may meet the eligibility criteria financially for another reason, are not eligible to tap into those funds to pursue the credentials and certifications that our high-demand workforce needs. And we have always struggled to kind of align our dual enrollment with credentials that are accepted by our institutions of higher education. And so this is a way to blend the two. It allows the school division to keep their average daily membership, but the community colleges would also be paid. So everybody wins. Meanwhile, we're graduating people with medical credentials. It wouldn't get us an RN, but it would get all the prerequisites for an RN. It would get us LPNs and many of the techs that we need, MAs, and this would give high school students a really marketable certification or licensure with, guaranteed acceptance. So, Madam Chairman, that is the bill. I'm happy to answer questions or go into more detail if it's helpful.
Any questions? Okay, I would just want to be clear. This is for high school kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And there are budget amendments in to realign G3 and Workforce Credentials Grant Program to allow high school students to access them as long as they're in the predetermined high-demand fields.
Senator Cosgrove.
Senator Donovan, who would define high-demand fields?
It's already defined in G3 and Workforce Credentials Grant Program. They're based on our workforce boards, and so those credentials and licensures are already defined.
Can they be expanded without a whole lot of difficulty?
They can be, but there's a process by which that happens, and it's quite an extensive list already.
Okay.
In fact, I will say that the Workforce Credentials Grant Program does address many other high-demand workforce needs other than healthcare. But in this instance, what is really happening is that the community colleges are developing these pathways. And one of the things that the amendment does is it really maps this pathway from 6th grade on. And 6th grade is when kids need to know that they're going to have access to the cost of an education. And so we would be able to map what classes do you take in middle school and high school so that you can be eligible to get this credential or licensure. And so it's that infrastructure. And I will say that community colleges already have some of these in play. They have one in Southwest Virginia, and they have one in Northern Virginia. So we would be attempting to replicate these first regionally and then hopefully at every community college to better interconnect that K-12 community college education pathway.
Question, Madam Chairman.
Go ahead.
Should the bill be reported, does it have to be sent on to finance?
Yes, sir, it does. It has a fiscal impact for the bill itself and then some other budget amendments associated.
I'll just
Those
wait.
in support?
Here, come right on.
I would have worn a mask, but I didn't know it was going to be this close. Ellen Davenport with the community college system. Yes, we support the bill. We've been having conversations with Senator Donovan. As she mentioned, this is actually being piloted in several areas of the state now. The most recent one was in the Roanoke area, so Virginia Western, Wytheville Community College, and Dabney S. Lancaster are working on this. That one doesn't go down to the 6th grade level. It's just in high school, but we appreciate Senator Donovan bringing this forward.
Thank you. Others in support? Anyone dare to oppose?
I do have one
I like the
final-
way you say
one-
that.
One final question, Madam Chairman. Senator, are the healthcare companies involved or participating in this, like Centeras and Carillions and the like?
Only to employ the workforce,
Okay.
but there's no, that I know of, guarantee. Oh, well, here's somebody.
I'm sorry, Corellian is in the Roanoke area, yes.
They're partnering, okay, yeah. Yeah, I knew they weren't going to run it.
And I'm sorry, let me clarify, for the clinical, yeah, I mean, for the clinical portion of the different training programs, yes, they would be participating, but not investing. Yeah.
I would make a motion to recommend reporting and then sending on to finance as the substitute.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you,
It's
Jeff.
been moved and seconded to recommend for reporting the substitute to Senate Bill 751. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Thank you, Madam
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Senator Mason.
Yes, ma'am. Senate Bill 685 for me, Madam Chair.
685,
And there is a line amendment.
line amendment. Pull you up. Okay. Chap's sleeping now, second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the line amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, okay.
To Madam Chair, members, this is an advanced manufacturing talent investment program. We're really piggybacking off of some work that was done before, trying to incent more computer science degrees in Virginia. And we've got, this is a goal to come up with 25,000 advanced manufacturing credentials over the next 20 years. Newport News Shipbuilding has hired 7,500 people over the last 3 years and need to hire 8,000 more over the next 5. And we just don't have the people. And throw in the burgeoning industry of offshore wind. We're just trying to determine ways that we can enter in with partners. And so I'll take you just quickly through the bill. What we just amended was added to the designated reviewers that you see on line 17. These are the folks that will review the setups, the memorandums of understanding, and the enrollment opportunities. But if you go down to 33, you'll see qualified institutions. This is anywhere from community colleges, CTE, local school, public schools, anywhere that we can set up advanced manufacturing credentialing opportunities for students. Then you go over to line 66. You'll see that these designated reviewers will look through very extensive criteria and requirements from these partners to say, well, how are you going to do it? How are you going to spend the money? Are you prepared to spend the money? Do you need, what do you need? What are your outcomes? What are your metrics? I mean, very extensive down through line 81. And then you see the designated reviewer is going to look at 89, actual costs, number of students, tuition revenues. So it really extensively goes into, not just, hey, I'd like $1 million. I think I'm going to set up a program for X. No, a very extensive program designed to get at these very much in-demand jobs that are high-paying, and we absolutely need the people to do it. So this is a goal over the next 20 years. There is an ensuing budget amendment of $7.5 million per year to set it up. And you will see, and like I said, there's a lot of extensive requirements laid out. If you need $1 million to establish a shop to get the equipment for, fine. How many credentials do you plan to turn out? How many students can you educate? And what kind of impact will you have from top to bottom? So we're borrowing from something we've done from computer science in the last few years and hoping we can apply it to advanced manufacturing.
All right, any questions?
Madam Chairman, coming from the technology sector, this is a great bill. This, we have the Advanced Institute in your area. Newport News Shipbuilding is, Huntington Ingalls. It'll always be Newport News to us. Basically, is in support. They have a great track record of attracting and training people. But you're right, 8,000 people tomorrow if they were there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is going to cost a little bit of money, but it's going to be a gold mine for the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Madam. And we just heard from the new Secretary of Commerce and Trade downstairs in Commerce and Labor, and she talked about Virginia readiness programs trying to target high demand jobs that are needed and trying to match people up. This is just trying to do it in the advanced manufacturing sector.
Great. Anybody here to speak in support of your bill? Oh, here comes Tom.
I love this guy's last name. Yeah.
What's your last name?
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, Tom Cosgrove on behalf of Newport News Shipbuilding and also representing the Virginia Manufacturers Association. Breck Vassy apologized. He was hoping to join remotely and was not able to do so. But just want to thank the patron for his introduction to this bill and his testimony. I think he introduced the concept very well, and certainly for the shipyard, we have the need for the people, and growing the capacity of the pipeline is hugely important to us. Over the past 4 years, the state's made over 350 economic development announcements in advanced manufacturing with over 25,000 associated jobs, and we need the people to fill those jobs, and hope that this is a way to do it, not just specific to the maritime industry, but helping all of Virginia focus on the manufacturing opportunities that are unique to their region. So appreciate your consideration of the bill.
Oh, thank you. Anybody here in opposition?
Madam Chairman, nobody else wants to speak to it. I make a motion that the bill be recommended for reporting and finance, and on to finance, as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that SB 685 as amended be recommended for reporting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we have one bill left, and I don't know what you just... Yes. Oh, she's back. Yay. Is
that my turn?
It's your turn.
Thank you, Senator. Madam Chair, SB 667 is coming as a recommendation from the Council of Presidents, who are really seeking to be quite innovative as we take a look at what new opportunities we can provide our college students, both at our community colleges as well as our four-year institutions, and there is a substitute.
Amendments.
I move the amendments, Madam Chair.
Amendments, yes, I'm sorry.
It moved and seconded that we adopt the amendments to Senate Bill 667. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You have the bill as amended.
And the amendments are simply changing the nomenclature in the bill, which refers to the Virginia Office of Education Economics, to the office that we established last year, which was the Office of Education and Labor Market Alignment, though it is known as the VOEE in its working form. But this bill is really taking a look at opportunities to establish work-based learning, which, as we know from a lot of research around the country and the work of other institutions, is probably one of the most powerful ways to help our students acclimate to the kind of skills and the knowledge, the training that they need in order to move effectively into job opportunities that are emerging in the Commonwealth. This would also use a portion of our student financial aid as authorized to be awarded as grants to students participating in work-based learning situations so that they are paid, that they are receiving paid internships. As we all know, oftentimes wonderful internships are available to our students, but our low-income community students in particular are not given the opportunity to participate in work-based learning because they have to have employment in order to actually continue in their higher education program. So this is is an effort to increase opportunities for work-based learning for all of our students, and also to really develop the talent pipeline that we have in the Commonwealth so that students are able to learn the skills and then upon graduation hopefully be employed by the employers with whom they have been working. Madam Chair, I would happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions?
Madam Chair.
Senator Peterson?
What is the Virginia Office of Education Economics? I don't think I've seen that before. What is that?
So, Madam Chair and Senator Peterson, that is the name that's now been given to what we called in legislation the Office of Education and Labor Market Alignment when we established it, but it's been changed in its working format to Virginia Office of Education Economics.
And further question, Madam Chair.
Senator Peterson?
And what's the mission of this office? I mean, what are they trying to do?
Madam Chair and Senator Peterson, when we established the Office of Education, Labor Market Alignment and Code, the purpose is really to be able to use sound data to anticipate where our growing needs are in labor and industry and make sure that we have an alignment, especially in our higher education programs, with the job opportunities that are emerging. So one of the goals of the office is to anticipate the growing job sectors that are coming 10, 20 years down the line, but also to anticipate the needs for curricular reform and the needs for faculty that need to be hired and the shifts in higher education requirements that we are seeing coming.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because it's sort of the age-old conundrum between liberal arts and the more technical skills. And truth be told, I'm more of a liberal arts guy in my background, but having multiple kids in college, it would be nice to see them have a job when they graduate. So I just familiar with this tension. I just wasn't aware we had created an agency for it, but now I know. Thanks.
Anyone here in support of Senate
Here's
Bill
the guy.
667? Peter Blake.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. I'm Peter Blake from Chev. Senator Peterson, I'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more. Plus, we have the director of VOE right here behind us, so she can give you a little bit of extra information about that. We support the bill. Madam Chair, particularly appreciate its focus on regional economic growth, as well as on students who may not ordinarily have had an opportunity to participate in an internship program, including some who may come from other disciplines, Senator Peterson. So we strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Others in support? Any opposition?
Madam Chairman, I move to recommend reporting as amended. It's got to go to finance.
Is this a fiscal impact?
Yes, Madam Chair, and I believe, Madam Chair, you have put in the budget amendment to help
I
support.
put in the budget amendment for this, yes.
Well, I'll second the motion. It's three. I'd like to actually spend some time with you all about this because this is something I'm interested in. So I'm glad to know we have this in place.
Okay, it's been moved.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that SB 667 as amended be recommended for reporting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, those opposed? Okay, that's recommended. So that completes our docket. Thank you all.